Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing really fantastic here at the end of 2020.
Yes.
2020. Yes, we are at the very end. Finally, exactly.
Finish line.
The finish line. There's vaccines in the world. There's videos of people getting those vaccines. We're recording this on December 23rd, so we're right up against Christmas and the holidays.
Yep.
And the end of the year. So, Mike, I am really excited to have you on. Just full disclosure for the audience, Mike and I recorded an episode a lot earlier this year and decided together at Mike's coaxing, which I totally agreed with, and I'm glad you did this, is like, we should probably just re-record because a lot of the things we talked about, you've got a lot of new stuff to talk about. So your life has changed a lot. My life has changed a lot. So we're having a fresh convo for the audience here, and I hope they enjoy it. So, Mike.
Yeah, full disclosure, that other episode was PC. So it was pre-COVID.
It was pre-COVID.
It was a lot different world. And, sounds like everything is going great with you. And there's been a lot with me that's been positive even during crazy times. So it's awesome just to have the chance to re-record. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, I mean, and the other thing I want to say is that episode we recorded was probably the best episode in the history of podcasting, not even my podcast, but unfortunately we're never going to release it. So no pressure, Mike, no pressure for this one.
You could do a secret release on that one at some point if you want.
A bonus episode of like a pre-COVID and post-COVID Mike Patterson.
That's right.
That's awesome. All right, so Mike, let's get into it. So I'd love if you introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, where you are in the world, and just a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Mike Patterson. I'm currently in Wilmington, Delaware, where I live with my wife, Karen, and my 3 sons, 2 of which are home from college on Christmas break. So it's awesome to see those 2. Mm-hmm. I also have 3 pets, and I own 3 businesses. So that's kind of my snapshot of 3s.
That's your family, your pets, your pets, your spawn, and your businesses.
Yeah, that's right.
Great. Also hailing to us from home of President-elect Joseph Biden.
That's right. That's the big thing. Anybody from Delaware is happy about that. And
I can imagine.
It's kind of crazy to see like the motorcade flying around and roads closed. Yeah. So things are a little different in the little state of Delaware.
Yeah. Does he live in Wilmington proper?
He does. He lives about 5 minutes from where I live. And he also has a house in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is the next beach town from Dewey Beach, where I spend summers. So,
nice.
the Biden effect is real in Delaware.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can definitely imagine. All right, cool. Let's get into it. I know we got a lot to talk about today, so let's kick it off, Mike. So first things first, I'd love to hear something that you absolutely nerd out about. What you got for us?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting one. So, I told you before we got on that I moved this year during COVID.
Yeah.
We just wanted to downsize. I had a house for 5 of us. Now there's really only 3 of us there because my other 2 are in school. So, it kind of been on our radar. So we pulled the trigger during COVID and super excited to move and kind of get in a new area and a lot of really good things. But I really have gotten into the home automation type stuff.
Yes. I love this topic. Me too.
Yeah. These things like Nest that I never had and like just Wi-Fi plugs and outlets and, all kinds of Sonos. I mean, it's been pretty fun just to learn about all that and, try to figure how that all integrates. And surprisingly, it's pretty smooth. I mean, I figured
it is
glitchy, but I've been pretty impressed with a lot of this stuff. And so that is something that I think has been relatively a new nerd out for me. As well as this, I think this one might be close to your heart if I'm not mistaken, but I've gotten into bourbon too.
Both of these are close to my heart. This is perfect.
Yeah. So I was a big Scotch drinker for years. Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit. And so I really enjoyed moving into the bourbon realm and experimenting with, the Manhattans and old fashions and how bitters change things. And so I've never really been much of a mixologist, but it's been kind of fun to screw around with it and then, knock off some COVID stress at the same time. So
there you go.
Added benefit.
Mike, I picture you on your couch at night, sipping on some bourbon, maybe one too many, and also like fiddling with your smart home settings. And your wife's like, it's really hot in the bedroom. What did you do? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, the lights are going on and off. I've had a couple of issues for sure. It sounds like that comes from experience, Jason.
Well, yes, I've had many a times. There's something I'm not generally cheap in life, but there's something about spending money on energy that just really drives me crazy. So we have all nests at our house, and I will my wife will, and I was sharing it. We have a new baby here. Like he's almost 3 months old. So babies like to be warm. That's kind of something that babies like to be and kind of need to be. It's pretty important that they're warm. And I don't like being warm because I'm from the great state of Minnesota where I have a lot of warm blood in me, so I like being cooler. And so I'll walk into our family room and it'll be hot, and I'll like turn it down on my phone. I don't know why. It's kind of bad. But I guess maybe I should set it up on the Nest so we both get something we want out of it, because on Nest you can program it, like, hey, go to bed, set it down to lower, and then, like 6 a.m., bump it up to whatever temperature it is. But yeah, I'm a big smart home person too. I've been a Sonos customer since the original Play 1 or the Play 5, in 2012. We live and die by our Sonos. We have 3 of them here at the house. We have another one in Brooklyn. I love Sonos.
Yeah,
and we have all of them. It's great. Yeah, we have my favorite one is actually the Move. Do you happen to have the Move?
We do have a Move. Yeah,
so good.
That's so nice. So easy to hook up to, and just the sound quality is really, really good for.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's cool. Any bourbon recommendations? Anything new that you've tried recently that you recommend to me or the audience?
So I think I'm pretty rookie. So any suggestions the audience would have, I would love. But so far, my number one is Angel's Envy. I really like that one, and I've had good luck with that so far. But
nice.
But it's kind of funny is my mother-in-law was cleaning out her liquor cabinet and just recently brought me a bottle of Old Crow. And this thing looks like from like 1940. It's
totally
old.
I know Old Crow.
Yeah. So I'd never seen it. So I broke that thing open last night, and I'm feeling a little bit today. It wasn't the smoothest of bourbons I've had, but I knocked down a few glasses of it. So it wasn't all bad.
Yeah. Who's a big bourbon person, and I think we've talked about this. We did talk about this, is we should do an episode with you, me, Steve Drum, and Michael Hudson, because those guys are both big bourbon and whiskey people too. That could be a fun
After dark.
An after dark episode. We sip on it, talk about it. Yeah, Steve Drummy's been turned. He's a big bourbon guy. I see him.
Yeah,
it's funny. The only thing I see him post on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, is when he's drinking bourbon. It's like the only thing he posts about.
Exactly.
So Steve, if you're listening, don't kill us. Steve is a former Navy SEAL, so he could definitely kill me with one hand. I know that for a fact.
For sure.
All right. Great, Mike. That's awesome. So let's talk about comfort zones and things that you like to do or don't like to do, things that are, in your comfort zone, things that are potentially outside your comfort zone. So we're going to start with something that is inside of your comfort zone that might be outside of somebody else's.
The comfort zone question, I've heard you ask that on some of your shows, and I like it because it does make you really think through stuff and get a little introspective. So what was the first one? Something that's inside my comfort zone?
So something that's something for Mike that's like, hey, like that's something I like doing, I'm comfortable doing, that that there are other people out there that it's just not in their comfort zone.
Yeah. So one of the things I've realized over the last couple of years and being involved in a couple different startup companies is that I'm very comfortable in the chaos of Uncertainty, meaning in a lot of startups, it's just, you can have a plan, you can have, strategy put in place, but it can go away quickly. Especially with the one business we have, Alias Cann, which is a cannabis sales agent. There's a lot of things that will trip you up real fast in that. So there's a lot of chaos. And I think the biggest thing that I've really helped me deal with this is I can deal with the uncertainties that lie ahead and try to put order to that. And so to try to make an uncertain environment steady and consistent for the employees and for myself as much as possible, because I know that some people, we just did employee reviews, and some people were like, hey, it's fun, but it's also a little stressful and this and that. So I really try to smooth all that out and to try to make chaos into order.
Has and that's a huge one. I mean, it's, for some people, they have a hard time dealing with uncertainty and change and those things. Right. Is that something that's always been inherent inside of you, or is that a skill you've worked on?
That's a good question, because I don't know. It's like, honestly, I didn't really even realize it until a few years ago. And I've kind of noticed it since then. And I think I have a real need for for organization and order in my life. So like my calendar is I live on that. And so, you know, I really have everything planned out for the week and this and that. And so I think that, you know, creating that smoothness and that order in the middle of all the chaos is something that's really related back to my need to have order in my life. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's like one of those things that I think that as I look at all the different balls in the air and I just say, okay, well, how can we make this something that makes sense for everybody, not just me, because it doesn't do any good if I understand what's going on and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but no one else can. So, you know, that's something that I think we really work on a lot at the businesses is making everyone's work life as predictable and as repeatable as possible, even in the face of a startup mode.
Yeah. What I hear in that, Mike, is like the old adage of like control what you can control.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that makes a ton of sense as a business owner to provide that service to the employees, because likely you actually have and because you're the owner, you can make decisions that impact everybody that maybe somebody who's an individual contributor doesn't have the ability to go and say like, hey, we're going to do this to feel like in control. So that makes a ton of sense. And I think that's likely, I know we're going to talk about this, about all the success you've had in your various businesses. That is a key skill for entrepreneurs. I coach a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think that's, man, if you're attached to how it's going to go, it's going to be a tough ride as a small business owner, entrepreneur, because, man, and I'm just thinking for you being in the cannabis business, I mean, you are at the mercy of government regulations, PCI regulations, you know,
you name
banks. Yeah. Like banks not taking credit cards, like all, and I'm not an expert like you are, but there's just seems to be so many external factors. Like it's an agricultural business in a way. So you like, if something happens to crops, all these things. So, yeah, kudos to you. That's a really cool skill. I might ask you more about that, because I think that's something that's really, really interesting to talk about. But what I want to do now is I want to flip this question, Mike, and talk about something that might be outside of your comfort zone that is inside of somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. You know, that is another one that I think really, you know, you and I met, Jason, at Heroic Public Speaking a few years back. Yeah. And, you know, and I always, you know, for my career, you know, as being a business owner and for 20 plus years, you know, I would give talks to the staff and staff meetings, and I would be on my feet, and I was always very comfortable doing that, you know, as well as like client meetings and things like that. So I always figured like, this is easy for me to get up and do a talk. Right. And so going to Heroic Public Speaking was a huge eye opener for me, in that I realized I'm really not comfortable with that at all. And like, even like, you know, we would do on stage coaching, and like, I was nervous as shit when first time I got up there. And I remember Michael even like told me to settle the fuck down. You know?
Did he really? That's hilarious.
And so, you know, and whereas I saw other people were craving that, and they really thrived in that environment where they would get on stage and be coached and be theatrical and project and enunciate and all these little things that I didn't even know were part of the equation. So that was a big eye opener for me. But at the same time, it's motivating, because it makes me want to get better at the art of delivering communications.
Yeah, I like public speaking, and I also get nervous. I think the thing with public speaking is it's like you're bearing your soul, because it's, especially for people that speak on things that are like their expertise, like business owners that are speaking on what they actually do. Not only are you being seen by whoever's in the audience, and they can see your performance, how you speak, and like the actual art of it, but they're also can call BS on your topic. And be like, hey, this guy's an idiot, or this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. So it's really a raw, it's in some ways it's a very raw experience, because, and I'm not an actor, like I do improv, but improv is easy compared to public speaking, in my opinion, because improv is like, there's really almost no stakes attached to it at all. Like you do something that's not funny, like who cares? But I think when you're an actor, like let's say you're a theater actor, you're not generally you're bringing your own character and your performance, and I'm sure that's can be a very nerve-wracking thing, but you're not actually speaking your own words. So you're performing somebody else's content, which I guess in some ways could be almost harder, but it's not like I'm going to go, you know what, this line is terrible, that person's terrible. But if I went to if we've all seen bad speeches, you're like, this person I don't want to listen to because I don't like their content, I don't like what they're saying, and knowing that it's their stuff. I mean, this happens all the time in politics, right? Like, there's so many terrible speeches in politics.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about especially like in the business setting, you hear a speaker, and if you don't, and everybody's got an opinion on every business. Everybody's a business expert. You know what I mean? So it's like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, that's not how cash flow should work, or whatever it's going to be, you know? And like, and so you're right. I hadn't thought about the notion of like an audience of critics sitting there throwing darts at you the whole time.
Yeah. One thing I remember, it was either Michael or Amy said that I just love. Because when I coach people, they're like, oh, I have to give a big speech at work. And they're like, but I don't want to be judged. Do you remember what Michael and Amy said about this?
No, what was it?
They're like, just to be clear, you're being judged. Nobody's just sitting in the audience and they're just like, I'm just wide open with this. Like, I have no opinions or assessment on any of this. I'm just here to listen. Like, no, everybody's like, hey, do I like that? I mean, we're human. This is what we do. Do I like this? Do I not like this? Is it useful for me? If I don't think it's useful for me in the first 30 seconds, I tune out. Is it useful for me? I'm going to go and like pay more attention. So for all of you all listening listening here who have aspirations to do more speaking, or like you don't want to do it because you're going to be judged, the truth is you're going to be judged. But sometimes that judgment can be, wow, this Mike is an amazing speaker. Well,
and that's, frankly, that's why I wanted to get better at it. Not that I had some aspiration of being like some, world famous keynote speaker, but I did want to be in a position where I could deliver some messages, at industry events, and to hopefully, connect with some, high end, partners and prospects to be able to, attract more clients to our business. So, there was a goal for me to do that. And, I think I'm on that path. COVID changed a lot of landscape things with speaking. So in some ways I was relieved. I was like, whew, I have more time to get my talk together.
That's great. You're like, God, this pandemic sucks, but God, it means I don't have to get on a stage.
Yeah. Oh, I threw the towel in like February 15th as soon as I heard about
totally.
It. Like, I'm out. Can't do it this year.
Yeah. No, you haven't been on the big stages this year. Is that what I'm hearing, Mike?
No, not at all. Just some, we have been doing more. We started a podcast, and
that's cool.
So we have started doing that, and that's been really nice because it's kind of like getting your feet in the water and a little less stressful. It's edited, so if I really botch something, we can fix it. But we have an awesome team, and it's people that love what they do. So Francesca, so she's on the show, and then her husband Nick is the host. And this guy, like you gotta listen to it. When I tell you, like a natural, the first time we did a show, could have sworn he was like a professional radio personality at one point.
That's cool.
Really, really good. And then Nick, who's probably one of the best cannabis salespeople out there, is also an incredible editor, and he knows a ton about lighting and sound and everything else. So just with the team that we had in house at Alias Cann, we have the backbone of a really solid show.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I want to ask you more about the podcast and what you've been up to around that. And we're going to get to that in a minute, but I want to go back to something. Not go back to something. This is you're the perfect guest because we've been talking about public speaking, and my next question for you is about public speaking, or giving speeches, I should say, which I guess is the same thing. So, Mike, if I had the superpower to allow you to deliver a speech to the entire world, and I'm going to caveat this because I've had some guests who are very detail-oriented who give me crap about this. Yes, there's translators. Yes, everybody can understand what you're saying. Yes, everybody has access to technology. Let's pretend in a world where everybody, all 7 billion people or whatever it is, can hear the message that you want to share to the world. What is it that you would give your speech on, and why, Mike?
It's 5 minutes, right?
5 minutes.
Yeah, so short talks. So I think, I love this question, by the way. I know I've heard you ask other people, and it's great to hear the variety of answers people come up with. And this is one I thought about yesterday, because I was trying to come up with like, what's something that I think would be, beneficial to people that's on my mind now. And I think like when I come to the end of the year, one thing I've done for many years is really kind of reflect on the year itself and get fired up about, what's ahead and all that kind of stuff. But I think one practice that I've had that has helped me and that I think can help other people is the notion of letting go. And what I mean by that is like letting go of things that you don't need in your life anymore. And not necessarily physical things, but it could be like cleaning out closets and stuff like that. But even like rituals and routines that aren't serving their purpose, or stress points that are causing excess anxiety, like that kind of letting go and cleansing your mind is something that has been beneficial for me in terms of just creating more capacity for me to work on things and be involved in things that I really want to be involved with. You know, like I kind of feel like, you know, I've only got so much room in this melon on top of my shoulders to do everything. Excuse me. So, you know, I got to take some stuff out to plug other stuff in. So I think it's something that's a really cool thing to do at the end of the year to kind of set the stage for what's ahead. But yeah, I've also found that it like that concept of letting go to grow is applicable in other areas of my life. So, I mean, you're going to see this with your kids, you know, and like things they're going to want to do on their own that maybe you wouldn't do it the same way, but you have to let them experience it and maybe fail before they succeed in order for them to grow. You know, for me recently with, you know, my second son leaving for college, that's tough, man. Like when kids leave, when they fly out of the nest, it's like heartbreaking. But at the same time, he came home 3 months later and he was so much more adjusted and confident and everything else because he'd been living on his own, you know, on campus. Even during COVID, he's down there getting it done. So, you know, it's letting go, you know, in your personal life, individually, but then even like at my workplace, in order, you know, I kind of touched on it earlier, in order for my businesses to grow, I can't do everything myself. You know, I have to get good people and trust that they're going to be able to do what, you know, they need to do and give them the tools they need and the support they need. But knowing going into it that they're not going to do it the same way I would do it, probably, you know, they're going to have their own way of doing things. And the best thing I can do is be supportive of that and allow them to grow as a person, because that's ultimately what's going to allow the company to grow. So, you know, I found this concept to be kind of a universal truth in my life, that, you know, when times get hairy and I get like stressed out and spread thin, I kind of go back to that as my centering point. So that's something I would like to deliver to the world.
That's awesome.
I encourage everyone to take a few minutes during the holidays, perhaps with a bourbon, and figure out what you want to let go of.
I think this is, I think the thing that the whole world has hopefully learned how to let go of this year is how it's going to go.
Yep.
What it's going to be, how your job's going to go, how your vacations are going to go, or lack of vacations.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. That's something letting go is something that I think as I've gotten a little bit older, I've gotten better at in some ways, not being so attached to the things that I deem as important. And I think it's, I don't know about you, for you, I don't know if it's from having a family or maybe it's as you get older. I don't know. I'm trying to think for me about this. As I get older, you just realize that most of the stuff doesn't really matter. I get like it's a moment in time, and it can feel gross in the moment. Like, and I'm thinking about business, but actually personal stuff too in the business. You're like, oh my God, like this customer didn't do this, and then you're like, what was that thing that happened to me 2 weeks ago? I don't even remember. I moved on, and like not being so attached to things in the moment. That's a great message, Mike.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you so much for all the information you've shared. We're going to take a really brief commercial break, and we will be right back.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
All right. Mike, welcome back. We're back from commercial break. And this is a part of the show where love to give you the chance to just share your journey of, you know, where you come from. You shared a little bit about your business life and what you've been up to there, and anything you'd like to share with me and with the audience at this point. The floor is yours, my friend. You get to perform for us. Here you go.
The pressure is now on.
The pressure is on.
So yeah, kind of have I think a little bit of a unique path that I have going on, but it does have a common thread. So I'll try to make it clear. So I started off working for a family business that my dad started, and I never ever thought I'd want to work for my parents or anything like that. But it was a really cool business, and what it is, and we still have the business today. I own the company now, but my dad started a company that was the exclusive distributor for Teflon coatings for DuPont at the time. And
Wow.
like the whole notion is that, big business like DuPont is really good at handling big clients, but not very good at handling small and medium sized customers. So just in terms of support staff and ability to talk to people and get quick shipments and things like that of products. So the concept of the Intech services was just that. It was to take care of the little customers. And it was really cool. Like they started that in, I think, 92. I joined in 94 after I graduated from college, and started off doing sales. And I really loved it. It was a small company. It was like 5 people. And but I got a chance to travel all around the country, meeting different people. And that to me was something that, looking back, was probably the most formative thing of my career, because I got a chance to sit down and talk to business owners and people that were very successful, and really pick their brain about, what did they do that made them successful, and, understand everybody's different kind of recipes for success, and see the business and learn the business. And so those things to me were just like huge for my career, because with any job, you need to get out there and see it and talk to people and learn to speak the language and all that stuff. And so that's been something that, with all the businesses I've started since then, that's always been the recipe that I followed, which is like, be involved and get out there, and don't try to learn it from your house or from your office. You got to get out there,
especially in sales. Like,
oh my God, yeah,
got to interface with customers and hear their complaints and things they care about. Like, it just doesn't work otherwise.
Yep, exactly. So Intech grew a lot over time, because, as it turned out, our model of providing really, really exceptional customer service and support, people really gravitated towards that. So over time, DuPont continued to transition more of their customers to us, and to the point that by 2000, I think it was, we had essentially all their customers in the US and Canada. And so it's been a really, really cool ride. My dad retired in 97, and then he had a partner, the Kazmarczyk family, and they retired in 2009. So I've owned that business by myself since 2009, and it's a really, really fun business. And the Intech piece is what led me to these other companies, because one thing we realized in doing my Teflon job was that, customers would come to us and ask us, like, what's the best oven I should use to cure my Teflon, or best equipment for this or that. And, so we wanted to get better at our job. And so we started researching more and talking with more manufacturers to understand how these related pieces of equipment would, fit into the overall support system we could offer. And so one thing we realized was that there's a lot of companies out there that manufacture a great product, but that's where it kind of ends for them. And they don't have a sales team that can go out there and pound the street and get them into new markets and do that kind of stuff. So we kind of spun and pivoted into starting up another outsourced sales company for industrial equipment, and that was called the Alias Group. And the whole alias notion of it, meaning that we do all our work under our client's brand name. So we're calling and selling under their brand, and establishing them in the market and building their brand equity, et cetera. So that company did really well, and it grew a lot, revenue wise and people wise, to the point where I sold that at the end of I don't even know, 2016 maybe. And because it was getting to be a lot, and I just wanted to focus on other stuff, and it was the right time to do it. And so that was really cool. And kind of in parallel, that's where I started Alias Cann, which was the same sort of concept of working for other people and helping them with sales, but in the cannabis space. And this business came to fruition with Francesca, who we talked about earlier. She's my partner at Alias Cann, and she was a marketing coordinator for Intech, and she was really, really good at her job, and she also had a lot of understanding about the cannabis space. So we kind of designed this company and built the concept of it up together, and there's a lot of things I know about business that she doesn't, but there's a lot of things she knows about business that I don't, and about just especially with the cannabis space and about the social end of it and this, the social justice and all that kind of stuff that she brings to the table that's I know nothing about, or at the time I didn't. So it was really a nice fit. And so we started Alias Cann about 3 years ago. And again, that business is sales and marketing in the cannabis space. But since then, we've really continued to just narrow our focus. And we don't really even do marketing anymore. It's very rare that we do stuff. I mean, I love marketing. My undergrad degree was marketing. Yeah. But there's a lot of people out there that do marketing and will make a logo or a website or whatever else, especially in cannabis. Everybody comes rolling into cannabis space and they're like, yeah, I'm a cannabis marketing company. And they just put a pot leaf on a logo and they think that's what it is. So, but we really tried to focus where our strengths were, which is the sales side. Yeah. And so the Alias Cann, now we just say we're a sales agency, and we really serve two types of clients. One is the cultivators. And so again, this is like you said earlier, it's an agricultural business. And so they're out there, even if it's indoor, there's still, a science to it and what they're doing. And so, a lot of the people we work with are excellent growers, but they don't want to sell, and they don't want to call dispensaries and try to position their products. I mean, what they love doing is growing and harvesting and curing and all that kind of stuff to get the product to have, really, really high specs and test results. So, we work with growers, and in that case, our sales team essentially calls in their state. So we're in a couple different states, mostly out west. So we'll call dispensaries in Oklahoma or Washington or wherever our clients are, and really build their brand and try to sell product. And that's been a lot of fun. Like right now, everybody grows in October is when a lot of the harvest is. Anybody out there growing, they harvest in October.
That's so just when the natural cycle of cannabis plants.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're doing indoor, they're harvesting, periodically every month or two, depending on how they're doing it. But once October and November hit, there's a ton of weed that hits the market. So like literally right now, like we have over 2,000 pounds of flower that our clients, want us to help them sell. So it's good. It's fun. I mean, it's exciting, especially when you get somebody that buys a lot. But it can be a grind, because we're pounding the phones all day and talking to people, but it's a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding to be able to help these people that are farmers in a lot of ways realize their business dreams, because, without us, they have a hard time selling, or they might just sell it in bulk to an extraction company and get half of what they would if we help them sell. Right. So it's really cool. And it's rewarding. And that's cool. It's a lot to learn about too, like just, all the different strains and how they affect people, from a positive medical impact on people's lives. And so it's been a constant learning curve for me and for our team. But we have, like I said, we have a really, really strong group of people that we work so well together. Everybody's got their own strengths, and it's just has been well. The other thing that was really cool, and this is kind of like COVID brought this about, is with Alias Cann, is we knew we always wanted to work for dispensaries, but we couldn't crack the code on what value we could bring to the table. And it came about, we figured it out during COVID, when all the dispensaries were, it was really interesting. They're all deemed to be essential business, which was awesome because they were allowed to keep their doors open. Yet they didn't qualify. Nobody in cannabis qualifies for federal PPP money, unfortunately. But so a lot of these dispensaries, in order to continue to do business, they had to start doing curbside pickup rather than in store. So so a friend of mine in the industry runs a dispensary, a really, really high end dispensary in Maryland, and he was having problems with customer service, customer interaction. So we put a team together that would essentially call their patients, get them scheduled for pickup, help them with orders, almost like a virtual bud tender type thing. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so it was really cool. We built that out, and we could handle a lot of different things. And so, we've since then we've been really trying to leverage that value because, this virtual bud tender concept is something that's going to stick around for a while because a lot of patients aren't going to want to go back to the stores even when they can. And many of the dispensaries are setting up delivery services and all kinds of things like that to allow patients to be able to get in-home services. So, we're really excited about it. And it's the nice part for us is it has a lot of value and we're doing things that we like to do. We're helping to sell product, but we're also helping the patients. And that's the other part that with both of these situations with Alias Cann, we're helping people, live better lives or have a stronger business. And at the end of the day, that's what makes everybody feel good about it.
Yeah. Can I ask you a little bit about the business model? I'm very curious how this works.
Yeah.
So let's say that I'm a grower. Let's say I have two questions about the business model because I know nothing about this space. So I'm always fascinated when I have guests come on to talk about things that they're experts in. I'm like, I have no idea. And I'm curious about this. So I'm a grower and I hire Alias Cann to help me with my sales and marketing efforts. Is your team also responsible for setting the pricing and negotiating with buyers, or is that something that the growers themselves generally will set? How do you operate inside of that, like the pricing paradigm?
Yeah, that's something it's always discussed. It's a common question. So what we do is we help the growers understand the pricing in the market, but ultimately they set the price point.
Got it. Okay.
And a lot of times they'll give us a floor price and based on volume, like, hey, if it's going to be a quarter pound, I want this. If they buy 2+ pounds, you can go to that. But, many times they know what they want and it may or may not be realistic for the market based on the type of product they have. So, we keep a database and that's something that the more data points we get, the stronger that database gets for that state, and that we can go to someone and say, okay, well, here's your product. Here's the test results of your product. It's 28% THC. So you should be able to get $2,400 a pound for that versus this strain over here. That's 14 that we think you should sell for 1,200. So, we can help them with that stuff, but ultimately it's their decision. And then, once we make a sale, we coordinate the deliveries and, we don't do the delivery. Obviously we're operating out of Delaware, but they have their own delivery, they collect payment, and then we make a commission at the end of that.
Yeah, so you actually answered my second question. I was curious if this was more like a consulting retainer fee type agreement or a commission on sales that come through the company. So I think you just answered that. Yeah,
it's got to be. I mean, because trust me, I'd love it if it was a flat retainer, but it doesn't make sense really in this model unless we get really, really good at what we're doing and we can guarantee results. And it's tough because, like I said, there's huge supply and demand thing. So right now it's tough selling weed right now, but
I can imagine
February and March, it gets easier. And then in the summer, if people are smart, they'll hold it for 6 months. And then they can charge probably 30-40% more than they can.
Because the market is tapped.
Dried up.
Got it. Yeah. And then the last question I had is, do you also provide any sort of consulting services for people that want to get into it, or they're opening a shop or something? And do you have any? You obviously have a lot of expertise in the firm. Do you provide any sort of professional services of hey, here's how we'd recommend you set up a store, or any best practices?
Yeah, that's something we're looking at. And it's, when we first started Alias Cann, we would work for anybody, in the business.
Yeah, sure.
We had grow light people and ingredient people and, all kinds of ancillary products and services. And a lot of them were consulting type gigs where people would say, how can I get positioned, or what should my branding be? And frankly, we love doing that. But we want to stick in our focus of, dispensary and cultivator work. And we absolutely can see a place down the road where we can go in and help, especially growers. Well, we can help both on the grow side. Here's the big thing. You're in sales, so you'll probably like this. One of the things we've seen a lot in the last year, or really, I should say, came to light for us, was the importance of what we internally call sales operations. So it's just the behind the scenes operations at the farm, we'll call it, right? So, our guys, a lot of times what happens, we'll talk to a dispensary, somebody says they're interested, they'll want to see a sample. And so, which would be a small, a gram or something like that the farm will send out. So our guys will put a sample request in, which then generates a bunch of paperwork for the farm because it's, it has to be tracked. So then the farm has to arrange for delivery and this and that. And then we'll follow up. And then if they like it, they'll place an order. The the good farms have that process down. The bad ones can't handle it. So we can do an awesome job selling and get the word out there and really build some pull from the consumers. And next thing you know, if they can't deliver, we're not going to make any money.
Yep.
So, we really can see ourselves. We want to be in a position that in the near future to be able to provide that sort of consulting service on the sales operations side, because we've seen farms that do it well, and and it's not that hard. I mean, but it requires organization and consistency and repeatable process. And writing out those SOPs and all that's super boring, but we do it all the time, and we can certainly help people build that out on their end.
Yeah.
And then on the dispensary side, there's a lot. This is really common too. It's the 80-20 rules. A lot of the revenue generated at the dispensary level is from repeat customers or repeat patients in a medical state.
Yeah,
so they've got some people that are coming there buying $1,000 a month or whatever it's going to be, but they have this huge part of their customer base which are either casual or infrequent users, or maybe they're buying at a different dispensary. So we're really positioning ourselves to help them handle that group of clients as well. And that goes back to my Intech days, handling little customers and make little customers feel important helps them to turn into better customers, more repeat, more loyal customers, which leads to better word of mouth, better, now reviews on Google and Yelp and everything else where people are leaving reviews. So, we're putting ourselves in a position where we can come in and help dispensaries handle these small to medium or even lost customers, because they don't have the staff to do it. Their staff's dealing with the people who are in front of them and dealing with the plants that need to be tended to and harvested and put into packaging and all that kind of stuff. And so, where I see Alias Cann and where Francesca and I have really been guiding the company is doing the things that most people know are important, but don't want to do it or don't have the time or expertise or background to effectively do it. And that's the part that's been a kind of, as we've narrowed this focus over since COVID hit, really, as we kept narrowing our focus down, that's the part that's exciting, because we can see the value that we have and is stuff that we're experienced and skilled in, that has value in the market and the value to our clients to help them have a stronger business. So that's kind of the void that we've identified that we want to fill with our services.
That's great. Well, congratulations on the journey, and it sounds like you made some pivots, but also like adapted to the marketplace during COVID. And thank you for educating me on a lot of the stuff. I didn't know anything. I had no idea that most crop was harvested in October, and I didn't. So thank you for educating me and the audience on all this, Mike. So, and congratulations to you and Francesca. I know her as well. She was actually a guest on the show. Oh man, I think it was May. Her episode is in May. So she also talked a little bit about this too. And just congratulations to both of you on everything you're up to.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I'm going to throw out there too. We also have a CBD business that we started about 2 years ago, and that came out of the need that a lot of people wanted to hire us to help them sell CBD, which we did a lot of. But when COVID hit, all the big retail stores were shutting down, like big gyms and health clubs. So we kind of pivoted that business 6 months ago and made it consumer only. And we only go after consumers, and we do a lot of e-marketing and social and stuff like that. But that's been a fun journey too. That's mostly Francesca and I. We have some help from some of our marketing staff, but that's been a lot of fun. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of really cool things that, I look at like the whole COVID thing and the need to pivot, and it's been, as long as you're adaptable, I think anybody can see those things coming out there, and you need to have the ability to just kind of check your ego and any preconceived notion you have at the door and adapt to what's happening in the market or in society or in the economy. And that's been the rewarding part of a really crappy year in so many ways, is that, we said this last week when we were kind of shutting things down, is we were like, wow, we're positioned way better now than we were 12 months ago. And that's what makes me feel good. And that's, and it's like I said, it's my team. I feel like I'm the one guiding the ship, so to speak, and kind of looking at the map, but we have an awesome team. And without them, I can't do my job. So it's, and it's been a really nice end of the year. And as we look into 2021, it's just very positive for us.
Yeah. And I hope you're also taking some time off for the holidays here.
Yeah, for sure. This is actually the last official thing I'm doing, but I don't really consider this work. This is fun. I was glad we could do this. And but yeah, so for the rest of the vacation, it's just kind of relaxing, watch some football, play with some electronics. And
there you go. Yeah. Turn your thermostats up and down for fun, drink some bourbon. That's awesome, Mike.
Yes, a little bit of reading here and there, but just time with my family. It's great. It's great to see my kids home from college and so that's something I really value.
Yeah, enjoy. All right. Now we're going to get to the part of the show where you become the host and I become the guest. And you get to ask me a question, or if we're feeling really bold, you could even ask me a second question if you've got one. I had a guest who's like, "Could I ask you a second question?" I'm like, "I think that would be okay." And I like to put myself on a timer because I'm liable to go over otherwise. So, Mike, what can I answer for you and for the audience for myself?
So you've made a career change. I know you're in the coaching realm now since we first met at HPS. When I think that's awesome. I know you're doing great, but what have you had to do in your business to deal with COVID? And number one, what changes have you had to make? And then secondly, what are the things coming out of COVID that you hope stay? Like things that have changed in your life that you hope stick around moving forward?
Yeah, awesome questions. So the COVID thing for me, there's really two things that come up for me that changed. So I run a virtual business anyway. I for corporate gigs and such, yes, I'll do on-site, but for my private clients, most people want to meet on Zoom or even do phone. So in some ways, nothing's changed in terms of I've always been on Zoom and I've always been doing phone calls and coaching clients virtually. Again, like the corporate work, sometimes you go into like offices and do things. So that's changed a little bit, but most companies, it's not actually a big deal. The thing that's changed for me is I'm a big networker.
Yep.
And I would do a lot of in-person networking events. Mm-hmm. So for me, the big change has been I haven't seen anybody in person in a long time. I'm the president of a networking chapter in New York City. It's called Master Networks. It's amazing. And we have 11 members there. So Master Networks, I don't know if you've heard of it. I think it's in Delaware too, but it's like it's a company based out of Texas, and you pay a monthly fee. It's kind of like BNI for people who know that, although it's less strict, and it's quite frankly, I think it's a lot more fun. No offense against BNI. I've never done BNI, but this is what I hear. And it was funny because I remember on March 12th, the regional director for the Master Network was like, "Hey, we'll probably be in person for as long as we can." And like later that day, we're like, "Yeah, we're not in person anymore, and we haven't seen each other. We haven't been in a room with these amazing people in my networking group since March 12th." And we moved to Zoom, and that's been great. And also, like last week, we did a little holiday thing, right? Like a little holiday happy hour. And a year ago, we did a real happy hour. Mm-hmm. So for me, the big change has been the networking part of it, and also the cadence that I used to have would be, I'd get up, and I didn't generally like to work from home.
Right.
So I would go to a WeWork, like in New York City, there's a ton of WeWorks. Gotcha. I had a global access membership. So I'd go to WeWorks, and depending on where I was in the city that day, and I was doing things like improv classes, guitar lessons and all that. So for me, the big shift has been, I actually have more time because I'm not on the subway or doing all these other things where I'm in person with people. So that's the major change for me. The second question, I love this, and I've never thought about this, but a couple things come to mind. So the things the main thing that I hope stays for all of us is that we're all just human beings. And the idea that like, oh, there's Mike's kid, and I guess your kids are a little bit older, but like, oh, like I have a 4-year-old here. It's actually not a big deal if your kid interrupts a business meeting, or your dog, or your cat. Like, we're all just, most everybody out here are just good human beings trying to make their way in the world. And this facade that I think you see so often in the business world, this facade of like, you have your work life and you're this certain way as an employee or as a business owner, and then you're like Mike the dad, Mike the husband, Mike the bourbon drinker, and like, hey, like, can we just like, it's more integration into like authenticity, and also the appreciation. The other thing that I hope changes is appreciation for educators, for the teacher, and anybody who's an educator, and I'm not just saying a teacher, anybody who's educating and has had to bear the brunt of the changes that they've had to deal with without a pay raise. So my best friend from Minnesota, he's a high school science teacher and a football coach. He's got to do hybrid learning. He had to do hybrid learning, which is a huge pain for a teacher, because you got some kids in the classroom, some kids on Google Classroom, and you have to make it work for all of them. So you're like lesson planning and all these different logistical things that you have to do, and you're not getting a raise. They're not giving teachers any raises in most places that I'm aware of, other than maybe their normal raise. And so educators, and also appreciation for parents, and also appreciation for like the heavy lifting, and I'll put ourselves in this, that parents of younger children had to do over the spring, summer. Yeah. For kids that are, I mean, we were home with our daughter every minute of every day. Yep. From March until September. Fortunately, the school she goes to has been in person, which has been great. But, to ask a 4-year-old to sit on a Zoom for 3 hours a day is just cruel. And it's just not going to happen. And the appreciation, I think, for all these amazing parents who held down their, that held down their job and had these stressful jobs that they were used to going in an office. People had nannies or had, like grandparents or friends, family to watch their kids. And like, they did it all. My wife is one of them. My wife did it all. Like, I did not do nearly as much as she did because our daughter just wanted to be around her. And like, it's a lot, man. It's like people's jobs didn't really change that much. And then you're like, oh, and I also have this 4-year-old who at noon is done for the day. We have nobody to take care of her, and we got to still do our job. So I think for me, that the two biggest things are just the humanity of like, everybody's just trying to make their way, and the appreciation for parents, and specifically for educators. So that's what I got for you, Mike. That's
Those
a great
are good
question.
Those are great answers. And, it's one that I see, my kids are older, so I don't have that same one, but my neighbor in Wilmington, in the new house we moved to, they're a 3-year-old and they both work, and I see the stress they have, and, it's tough. And I hope that it's the type of thing that employers out there recognize that and cut people a damn break. You know what I mean? Like, not everything has to happen at the same clip that was happening before, and give people some space to live their lives, because the stress level is insane. So I'm really interesting you brought that up, and I think that those are solid answers. Well done, Jason.
I get the gold star from Mike on the show. That's not an easy hill to climb. So thank you. I'm feeling very validated today. Thanks, Mike. It's good. Really good questions. I love getting some. Sometimes I've done this podcast, I've recorded 60 some episodes, so some of the questions I get over again. I never have a canned response, but I'm like, oh, I've answered that before. That one, I have not had either of those two questions proposed to me, so nice. I'm really, really glad you did. So thank you for bringing something new. And for those listening, no, we're not rehearsing. If that's not obvious, then you're not listening to me, because I'm just spitfiring over here. I did not know what Mike was going to ask me.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, that's great. We're doing a little mini improv here. That's
right.
Probably boring half the audience, but that's okay. All right, Mike, back to you, my friend. What is something that you are passionate about besides cannabis, CBD, and bourbon? What's something else that you dig on?
I think one thing I've learned, I think, again, like, I try to be introspective and say, what is it that really makes me tick? And I think, being a father and raising kids and coaching, they're all in sports, and as a coach for many years, and now, running businesses. I think one thing I really, really get a lot of satisfaction from is seeing people reach their goals, and seeing people, make progress and do things that maybe they didn't think they could do, before. And so I think that, to me, is like the biggest thing that I love, is whether it's, my kids doing stuff they couldn't do or learning, growing up, or there's somebody doing something on the sports field, or someone at my workplace, reaching a goal that they had in life. I mean, that's the best damn feeling there is. And, it's the type of thing that I think a lot of people can overlook. It's easy to miss those things, but I'd look for those all the time, because that's like a free reward for me to be able to say, like, all right, I'm doing something good here and helping somebody, achieve something that maybe they didn't think they could achieve before.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. What kind of sports did your kids play?
They were big in baseball, so I was a baseball coach for a long time.
Nice.
And then my oldest son was also played rugby, and my youngest son is going to start that this year. So that's a sport I never played, but I wish I did. That's a great sport. Really, really good sport.
I don't know anything about rugby other than I've obviously seen it. I knew some people played it, but I feel like if you play rugby, you almost automatically get injured at some point.
Without a doubt. I mean, you're running around full speed with the only thing you have is a mouthpiece.
That's insane.
Yeah. And there's like no, football, a lot of times it's like the big dudes play on the line and this and that. Rugby, it's just everybody. It doesn't matter. I mean, like there's big guys, sport. Little guys. There's some big time collisions out there, but it's
dirty too. Isn't it dirty when you get into scrum? It's pretty dirty too, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it seems like it. Like I said, I've never been in there, but from what I see and some of the injuries I see, it looks like it is.
Oof. Well, good luck to you, and good luck to your youngest who's going to start doing that. Is for your old, what do I want to ask here? Is rugby a club sport at most colleges? Can you go and play intramural or play against other schools? Rugby's not generally like an actual sport in America, is it, for colleges?
It's not really. I think there's some colleges where it's a scholarship sport.
Yeah,
but I think for most schools it's more of a club sport. But they have national championships and they have all that kind of stuff. So I'm not 100% on that one, but it's the kids that play in college are just monsters, man. My son thought about it for like 5 minutes, and then we were at a tournament where there's a bunch of schools, and these were like, some of the schools are big, some are small, kind of like good cross section, and even the guys that were small were just like tough as hell, man. I was like, whoa.
You're like, that dude doesn't have any teeth.
Yeah, and they all run fast, and they're like jacked, and I was like, you sure you want to play?
God. Yeah, that's funny. All right, what I want to ask you about next, I think I know the answer to this. So, Mike, what's the thing that you're most proud of?
This is an easy one for me, and which is my family. I mean, you probably picked it up during the course of the show. I brought them up like 100 times. I mean, that's they're the driver behind everything I do, and it just comes down to creating stability and creating options for ourselves, and security in our life, and they're really the motivator behind everything I do, and the reason that I like to go out there and take risks and be away from work, be away from home, and is to be a good provider for them.
Yeah, awesome. No surprise. That was not a surprising answer. I'll tell you. I had a feeling it was about the fam, and if it wasn't about the family, I would.
Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, I'm super proud of what we've done at work.
Sure. But,
if family doesn't come first, then to me, that's a big mistake. So that's something I've always tried to keep in mind. It's not easy to keep in mind. I mean, there's definitely times when that gets out of whack, and Karen does a nice job of checking me when that happens. And, getting back, it's always got to be about the family.
Yeah. Well, and also kids can be real pricks sometimes. So that makes it a little bit harder too. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Maybe not your family, but most other families. Maybe not your kids.
Every family. Every family.
Exactly. All right. Next question for you, Mike. What's something that you're afraid that might actually be true about you?
It's kind of funny. Like I have two older brothers that are 10 and 8 years older than me. And we are like growing up is always like, oh man, dad's a pain in the ass, or, whatever it's going to be. And one thing, so then when I worked with my dad for 2.5 years. And I feel like I was super lucky because I got a chance to see him in a different light and see him as a, professional, not just my dad. Mm-hmm. and that was invaluable to me. And I feel like that's something that my brothers never did see that I did. So, but like, so what, I guess to answer your question, like, I think I'm more like my dad than I thought. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, wait, am I turning into like, he's stubborn and opinionated and, you know, but he has a big heart. And he's an awesome support system. He's, you know, and he's a hell of a guy. And, but I always like growing up, I'm always like, oh, dad's a pain, you know, and now I'm like,
of course.
I think I hear myself saying stuff to my kids. And I'm like, oh shit, man. I'm
Well, it sounds like it's you're afraid it might actually be true, but it's also a positive.
Yeah, exactly. It's not negative, you know, but it is like, well, yeah, it's a positive thing. I mean, there's worse things in life than to be like your father, right? And so, it is kind of funny though, like this circle of life type thing where I'm like, oh man.
You're like, well, it reminds me of is it Progressive with the commercials with the guy who's teaching their younger people how not to be like their parents?
Those are the best.
They're so good.
They're good.
I love the one where he's reading the submarine. He's like, who else reads books about submarines? My dad.
Yeah.
Those are really, really hilarious.
Those are good. Those are well done.
They're very well done. What's the other thing? It's like, this is how you turn your phone on silent. There's a button for that.
It's so universal.
So good. Awesome. I'm going to start to wrap up today. I want to just spend a couple minutes and ask you what your general philosophy on life is. So this can be business philosophy, outside of business, integrated. It can all be just your general philosophy. So Mike, how do you see, like the other way to put this is, how do you see the world?
I think all good, I guess one of my philosophies I've seen kind of come to fruition personally and professionally is that anything that's really great takes time and it doesn't happen overnight. And if it was easy, then everybody'd be doing it, all that kind of cliche stuff, but it keeps showing itself to be true. And so I think, as we build a business and build a family and all those things, patience is one of the things I keep trying to push myself to be better at and to be more patient and to let things develop and to trust the process, not to steal from the Sixers, but to trust that if we keep doing the right things and keep doing the things day after day, then good things will happen in the end. And so I think that's kind of like my long-winded answer. And I'm not sure if it was one philosophy or 10 that I just rolled out there, but it's all good, man. Kind of like it's the evolution of things happening and just letting it happen and trusting that the plans that we have are going to work out if we just keep doing the little things day after day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and I mean, I think that from what I know of you, and yes, Mike and I have met in person a number of times, and also what you're up to in your business life, what you've accomplished with your beautiful family and all the things you're up to. Like, I think you're living proof of keeping on, attention to detail. I go back to the thing that you said about the thing that's inside your comfort zone is being okay with it. Like what I heard is you're okay with not knowing all the answers. To me, man, like that's what I think is probably the main thing that's led to your success. And also knowing when to rely on other people for skills that you don't have. That's this is a big, huge thing. Yeah. Not only this, but I just want to say this too. The thing that I picked up, and you didn't specifically say this, but my impression of you is also as an owner is you really try not to do the things you don't like doing and pay people to do the things you don't like doing. And you like to get to spend, and you get to wake up in the morning excited about the things that you like doing, which is such a same way, man. And I'm a one-man show and there's things that I don't like doing and I put them off and I'm like, this is not what I want to do. And I need to, I could probably use some coaching on you and how to outsource some of my tasks that I don't generally like doing. So yeah, again, I just want to give you a big congratulations to,
well, thank you, Jason. That's really, really nice of you to say. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. So Mike, as we wrap up today, want to talk for a minute about your podcast. So how can people find the podcast that you and Francesca and Nick have? And also where can people find, the websites for your different companies and such? And all this will go in the show notes too. So don't feel like you have to write this down out there in the audience, but share with us how people can connect with you.
Oh, great. Thanks. So I think, for Alias Cann is the best way to connect with us. We have a great website we just redid this year. We were active on social media, and then Infused is the name of the podcast for Alias Cann, and that's on YouTube as well as Spotify and Apple. I guess all the main ones out there. So that's where you find Infused, and that's a fun show. So we definitely have some fun stuff to keep things light, but also like kind of dive into some of the issues and things going on in the world of, cannabis. So that's the cool one. And we're going to start doing that twice a month. It's starting in January. So we're excited about that, just to keep the frequency up. And
I have a question. Sorry, Mike, I have a question about the show. Are you all infused as you're doing the show?
No. So
Got it.
So far, at least I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about Nick and Francesca.
Yeah.
We typically shoot in the mornings. So I haven't been doing a wake and bake or anything for that show.
Yeah.
But that's a fair question. We did talk about doing like some remote after dark episodes.
Sure.
But that's probably ahead of us a little bit.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Sorry. I had to ask the questions. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That just popped in my head, but continue, please.
Yeah, no. And then the other videos we're doing is called Deliver More, and that's on the same platforms. And that's my Teflon video and podcast. And the goal there is real simple. I mean, we used to travel a lot to see customers and end users that utilize Teflon coatings. And so, given our travel restrictions, we wanted to find a way to continue to connect with people and deliver content that can help them run a better Teflon coating business. So that's a cool one. And that's like, Nick is the host on that as well. Host extraordinaire. And then we also have a lot of my guys and ladies that work in the Teflon business. So I try to spotlight different people, salespeople, business services, my CFO, everybody. We want to have a connection with our marketplace. So, so that's that one too. So that one's a lot of fun. That comes out once a month.
Nice. All right. Thank you, my friend, for being on today, for bringing all the stuff, all the good things in the world, bringing joy, peace, weed,
Jason.
CBD, Teflon, all good things to the world. So, Mike, last thing for you, and you know what's coming. It's a tradition on the show. What is some words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with, and make it short?
I think the words of wisdom, it's the end of the year. Just take time for yourself, for your family, and find something good to be happy about for this year, and set your sights on having a great 2021.
Thank you so much, Mike. Best of success in 2021. We'll need to schedule the After Dark episode where we talk bourbon.
That's
perhaps
perfect.
Some infusion as well. It sounds like we got a plan. Thanks, my brother. Good to see you.
Thanks, Jason.
Today, and happy holidays to you and the family.
Same to you, Jason. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and give us a shout out, or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.